Good evening and thanks for tuning in. I'm Ann Powell with the WJTS News. A homeless man was arrested this week on drug charges. Jasper police pulled over a vehicle for a traffic infraction on Wednesday evening. During this time, police determined that the male driver, identified as 46-year-old Jeremy Dean, had an outstanding warrant out of Crawford County. Police then searched the vehicle and located 6 grams of methamphetamine and multiple items of drug paraphernalia. Dean was booked into the Dubois County Security Center and charged with possession of methamphetamine, possession of paraphernalia, and cited for improper headlights, failure to register, and operating with a false plate. Another scam is making its rounds in Dubois County. The sheriff's office has taken in multiple complaints of an individual receiving calls or text messages in reference to their German American bank card. The text messages say that your card is blocked, and then it gives a contact number. The sheriff's office has been in contact with German American Bank and has confirmed that this is indeed a scam. They say the number in that text message should not be called. Dubois County is now a vote center county. Dubois County Clerk Amy Kippenbrock visited the Jasper City Council last night and the Huntingburg City Council last week in order to inform the councils of the Dubois County Election Board's vote. So what does this mean for voters? Any registered Dubois County voter can now vote at any location in Dubois County. So if you live in Huntingburg but you work in Jasper, you can now vote at the Jasper location and vice versa. The decision was unanimous by the election board, which is made up of the Dubois County Clerk, 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. Kippenbrock addressed a couple of questions that were posed to the board, the first one being the danger of someone voting more than once.
No new equipment, so everything that you know today when you go in to vote will still be there at your open location. You'll check in on a poll pad. It's essentially an iPad. If you try to check in twice or you try to vote by mail and then decide you want to go vote in person, that will alert the poll worker. That's nothing new. That's the way it's been in the past. As a great example, last year a lot of people thought they wanted to vote by mail. And then we got a little closer to the election and they said, no, I want to go in person. So when they would check in, we would say, well, it looks like you've already asked to vote by mail and we mailed you a ballot. So they have to surrender that ballot if that was the circumstance or the thing that we were dealing with at the time. There's a process for every situation, but the poll pad will alert the poll worker that something has already happened.
And second, will there be additional equipment and personnel at these locations?
We will increase our equipment. So we had machines at the Hobbig Center and we had machines at VUJC or at the Art Center. And we know how many machines are allocated to those locations. So we will have an increased number of machines at the one cultural center as a reaction to what we're doing. We have more poll workers at that location as well. We can shift, because we've downsized by one location, we can shift a few machines in other places as well. So we'll have more machines at the Jasper Middle School, more poll workers at the Jasper Middle School. We did through this process, we found that we wanted, they're called election sheriffs. They're more poll workers that are designated for that type of work. They are there for security purposes. It was a great fit because the school really said, we talked about the traffic flow since the elementary school is out there and how we should be handling that situation, because we don't want voters walking across the parking lot when there's lots of people dropping off their kids and causing any kind of issues. We haven't had any issues, but we wanted to talk about it. So their school resource officer will deal with the traffic side of things, but we'll dedicate 2 new poll workers that are election sheriffs. They are off-duty law enforcement officers, and they'll be inside the school. It's mainly because it's a school. Prevent anybody from interacting and going beyond the gym and resolving any issues that may come up. Again, no issues have been had in the past. It's just a preventative measure to keep it where it should be.
Additional differences voters can expect to see are a few changes in locations. In Fernan, the YMCA will now replace the Fernan Community Center as a voting location. In Dubois, the Rutan Park will replace the Northeast Dubois Middle School. And in Jasper, the Tenkart Cultural Center atrium will replace the Arts Center and the Habig Center as a voting location. For more information about voting and the voting locations around Dubois County, you can visit DuboisCountyIN.com. WJTS7.org. Another road project is scheduled to affect traffic patterns in southern Indiana. The Indiana Department of Transportation says that contractors will be restricting lanes at the US 41 and I-69 Veterans Memorial Parkway interchange in Evansville on or around Monday, October 25th. Workers will restrict one ramp at a time, and the work will be performed on each of the ramps at the interchange. Ramps will be restricted to a width of 12 feet. Wider loads will need to seek an alternate route during this time by using the nearest numbered state, U.S., or interstate route. High-mast lighting will be installed at the interchange after the foundations are installed. Work is expected to last for about 3 weeks on each ramp, depending on weather conditions. The entire project is expected to be finished up by the end of this year. NDOT urges drivers to slow down and stay alert near crews. October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Dubois County Prosecutor Anthony Quinn says there's no better time than the present to remember the victims and signs of abuse. In the over 30 years since the DVAM was launched back in 1987, awareness and understanding of domestic violence has increased. But still more needs to be done in ending this damaging cycle. In Indiana, 40.4% of women and 26.8% of men experience intimate partner physical violence, partner sexual violence, and/or partner stalking in their lifetime. Domestic violence is most commonly associated with physical violence. However, there are multiple types of abuse that are also considered domestic violence. These can include sexual, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and cultural violence, and both verbal and financial abuse. The first step in addressing domestic violence is knowing the signs. According to DomesticShelters.org, here are some of the common red flags: being jealous of your friends and/or time spent away, discouraging you from spending time away from your partner, embarrassing or shaming you, controlling financial decisions, making you feel guilty for all the relationship problems, preventing you from working, intentionally damaging your property, threatening violence against you, your pets, or someone you love to gain compliance. Here are 10 steps that you can take to help stop domestic violence in your community. Know the signs. Domestic violence can happen to anyone and affect all ages, races, income, and education levels. Don't ignore domestic violence out of a desire to not get involved. Lend an ear, listen without judgment. Be available and ready to help. Know the number to a nearby shelter. Check in regularly if a loved one or friend is experiencing domestic violence. Be a resource. Do the legwork regarding the escape plan and how to set up necessities for someone considering leaving a relationship. Write it down. Document incidents in detail. Free confidential help is available 24/7 from either Crisis Connection 24-hour hotline by calling 1-800-245-4580 or the National Domestic Violence Hotline by calling 1-800-799-SAFE or by texting the word START to 88788. Crisis Connection can also be reached during their business hours at 812-482-1555 or at their website, crisisconnectionincorporated.org. Indiana U.S. Senator Mike Braun says Chicago police officers have an open invitation to move to the state anytime they want. Braun told Fox News yesterday that officers who are frustrated by Chicago's vaccine mandate can now come to Indiana and not be forced to get their shots. Hundreds of Chicago cops could be placed on unpaid leave for not abiding by the city's vaccine requirement. Braun says that he is ready to connect any Chicago cop who wants to move to an Indiana police department that is currently hiring. How can small businesses in Indiana recover from the coronavirus if they can't find workers? That's the question from Indiana's National Federation of Independent Business. They say that 51% of small businesses had open jobs last month, up a bit from August. They also say that small business owners have scraped by for months, but might not be able to make it much longer without more workers. For the workers who are on the job, they are making more than before the coronavirus, but they are working a lot more as well. Indiana continues to face the latest wave of COVID-19 with 2,161 new cases reported on Thursday for the state and 26 new deaths. To date, there have also been a total of 1,005,797 cases for COVID-19 and a total of 15,909 deaths reported in the state, with 540 additional deaths as probably associated with COVID-19. And as right now, only 56.9% of Indiana's population is fully vaccinated. Dubois County saw 14 new cases and no additional deaths reported on Thursday. The Indiana State Department of Health reported a 7-day positivity rate of 10.3% amongst all tested and 26% amongst unique individuals. To date, there have been a total of 8,263 cases for the county, and 131 Dubois County residents have died from the virus. As of right now, only 61.4% of the county is fully vaccinated. For the surrounding counties as of Thursday afternoon, Spencer has 8 new cases, with 53.7% of its population vaccinated. Davies County saw 17 new cases, with 38.5% of its population vaccinated. Martin County reported 2 new cases, with 43% of its population vaccinated. Lawrence County had 14 new cases, with 51.3% of its population vaccinated. Orange County reported 9 new cases, with 1 new death and 51.4% of its population vaccinated. Pike County reported 4 new cases, with 45% of its population vaccinated. Crawford County has 2 new cases, with 48.6% of its population vaccinated, while Perry County reported 5 new cases, with 60% of its population vaccinated. And Warwick County had 18 new cases, with 66.7% of the population fully vaccinated. 14.6% of ICU beds for Indiana District 10 are in use for COVID-19 alone. The current recommendation from the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, and the Indiana State Department of Health to help combat the COVID-19 virus is to get vaccinated. To schedule your first vaccine, visit ourshot.in.gov, and to find a complete breakdown of the COVID-19 statistics for the state of Indiana, visit coronavirus.in.gov. And stay tuned to weekly forecasts and sports with Kirk Gooksell still to come on the WJTS News.